Our advanced scheduling tool will give you additional power and flexibility when it comes to meeting your more complex scheduling needs. Schedules can be generated based upon your organization's requirements to help control your labor costs and improve overall productivity. With this scheduling tool, you will have access to a rules engine that will ensure that you have eligible and qualified employees scheduled into each shift. You will also gain tools to help manage open shifts and empower your employees to better manage their own schedules. Let's begin by taking a look at our Scheduling Manager's dashboard. Our schedule dashboard is set up to provide additional insight into the information we need to help us better manage our schedules. Keep in mind that these tiles that we see here are completely configurable to provide us with the tools needed to be successful in our day-to-day activities. In this example, we have a tile that will flag any open shifts that need to be filled. We also have a couple of tiles here that show us how many hours are being scheduled across different departments or jobs within our organization. We can also see everyone who is scheduled to work today. And finally, we have a tile that is showing us all of the schedules that have been created for this company, allowing us quick access to review or make edits to an existing schedule. Now, perhaps our scheduling manager needs to set up a new schedule for an upcoming week. So to do this, we first need to open this report. From here, we can view and manage multiple schedules at once, or we can simply create a new schedule from scratch. Now, first we need to identify the schedule that we will be building. So in this case, we are going to take a look at one master schedule across the entire company, but you can also set up separate schedules across different locations or departments as needed. Then we will need to identify the start date for this schedule. Now, there are multiple ways that you can create schedules within the system. For static, non-fluctuating schedules, you can create a schedule template and auto-generate that schedule week over week. These schedules are still important, allowing you to track attendance and time away from work, but these can be automated to free up your time for other initiatives. We can also create schedules based upon volume. Volume-based scheduling will allow you to import volume and create your shifts based upon forecasted data. And the last way to create schedules is to begin with a workload template, which outlines the general shift requirements. Again, we are creating one schedule across the company. However, you could have a separate template for each location or department as well. Now that we have selected our template, our shifts have been identified and are color-coded for easy identification. So the next step is to generate the shifts for open coverage. This will move all of the open shifts from the template to the schedule so that we can schedule our employees into these open shifts. So with that, let's take a look at this schedule. Under the open shift panel here on the left, we can see all of the open shifts displayed. We have the opportunity to manually assign the shifts right from here. Or rather than manually assigning those shifts, we can also auto-assign these shifts to help save time as we build out our schedule. Now, this act of auto-assigning shifts does take a few minutes to populate out the schedule. During this process, it is looking at each employee's availability, what skills they have, and the cost centers that they can work in. In addition, it also looks back to our advanced scheduling rules. These rules will ensure that there are not any scheduling violations. Keep in mind that these rules can be configured based upon your specific business needs. For example, you can set up rules around the number of hours scheduled per day or per week, which will prevent an employee from being scheduled into an overtime situation. Once the shifts have been automatically assigned, we can then view the fully populated schedule. As you can see, we can easily review and manage the schedule on a day-by-day basis. And when you refresh your screen, you will see the total scheduled hours and any unfilled shifts across the entire schedule. and you will get visibility into the labor costs associated with this new schedule as well. Now, you have the ability to set budgets for your schedule to limit the labor costs associated with this schedule if needed. You can also group this schedule by cost center. As you can see, our schedule has been reorganized, allowing us to see a breakdown of each cost center to help ensure that we have the right coverage. Also, you will notice that each shift on the schedule is color-coded for easier schedule management. And while this schedule has been auto-populated for us, we still may want to review it and make edits before posting this schedule to our employees. So in this example, let's say that we need to add an additional shift. We are now brought to a shift management tool where we can identify the shift date and time. So let's start by changing the date. And then we can edit the shift time to begin at 8 a.m. and to end at 4 p.m. Next, we need to define the shift qualifications. So in other words, what cost centers and associated skills or job that we are adding to this schedule for this new shift. Now, before we assign an employee to this shift, you will also notice that we can define the shift count that you will need, so you can add multiple shifts at once. And when you're ready, you can assign an employee to this newly created shift. As you can see, we are brought to a list of employees who are available and eligible to take this shift. This list is considering all of your scheduling rules to prevent any scheduling violations. Here on the Others tab, you can see an example of how the system filters out any employees that do not qualify for a shift based upon your scheduling rules. So it will check for skills and cost center eligibility, overlapping shifts, overtime, time off, and availability, etc. So let's select our qualified employee to fill this shift. And then once we've selected the employee, we can save the shift and it will be posted to our schedule. We can also adjust the existing assigned shifts by clicking on the shift right here on the schedule itself. As you can see, a pop-up card appears, which will allow us to get increased visibility into this shift. This will allow us to delete the shift, copy the shift, unassign the employee from the shift, or manage the shift. Now, this is the same functionality that we saw when we added a new shift. We can change the date for this shift. We can change the time for this shift. We can split the shift. We can also change the cost center or the skills required for the shift. Or we can assign a different employee to fill this shift. Now remember, this view is looking at one day at a time. So we can toggle to review each day on the schedule, making adjustments as we go. We can also view the entire week all at once. Here we have the same level of visibility as the day view, but on a larger scale. We can still get visibility into each shift by accessing the pop-up card, and we can make adjustments as needed. We can also use the drag-drop scheduling functionality to make quick changes to our schedule. Essentially, we can drag an assigned shift and drop it to a new employee, and it will validate these changes against our rules engine to make sure that we don't have any scheduling violations. Now, within the schedule, we can also get additional visibility into pending or approved time off requests. Those pending time off requests can also be approved, rejected, or modified right here from the schedule itself. Now keep in mind that if an employee takes a day of vacation after the schedule has been posted, the approved time off request will take the place of the shift on the schedule, unassigning the employee and creating an open shift that needs to be filled. You can require that your employees fill these open shifts themselves, or the schedule manager can handle the process. Now, once we have finished reviewing the schedule, filled all the open shifts, and reviewed any scheduling constraints, then the schedule should be ready to be posted. After the schedule has been posted, the system will update the schedules for the employees to view within their employee self-service portal. And the employees will be alerted through an email notification that their schedule is now ready to be viewed. Now let's talk about open shift management. Back on the schedule dashboard, we have a tile that is calling out any open shifts that need to be filled, and we can easily drill down into those open shifts directly from here. We can then review the shift details and assign an employee to this shift. And keep in mind that the system will only allow us to select an employee that meets the qualifications so that we don't create a scheduling violation. Now, rather than just assigning the shift, we also have an option to post this open shift to a set of employees and allow our employees to volunteer to pick up that shift. So let's take a look. In this case, let's pull up the schedule that included that open shift. As you can see, there is an open shift located here under the open shift panel. And as we click on this shift, we are now able to push this out to our employees. From here, we can select the shift, and then we can select the employees that we would like to push this out to. Again, it will only allow us to post this to employees that meet the scheduling qualifications. Once the shift has been posted, these employees will receive a notification and can pick up the shift on a first-come, first-served basis. And keep in mind that any changes made after a schedule has been posted can be edited right from the schedule itself, and the changes will be pushed back to the employee. So now let's take a look at how the employees can access their schedule. As we take a look at our employees view, keep in mind that employees can access their schedule from anywhere on any device. And right from their dashboard, an employee can check out their schedule and time off calendar for quick visibility. This will show an employee when they are scheduled to work versus scheduled to be off. It will also highlight any approved PTO and upcoming company holidays as well. When selecting a day on the calendar, a pop-up card will display showing me additional information about my schedule or my time off. And by clicking on my schedule, I can get more detail into my entire schedule. So here, an employee will be able to see when and where they are scheduled to work. As you can see, the system will give them everything they need to make sure that they are at work in the right place at the right time. You can also give employees control over their own schedule by allowing them to pick up any open shifts based upon their qualifications and their availability. And if an employee needs to swap shifts or request a change of coverage, they can initiate those scheduling changes themselves. Under the Shift Swap tab, we will get a list of eligible qualified employees that we can swap shifts with. We can also initiate a coverage request if we needed someone to pick up our shift. This could be for the entire shift or just half of the shift. And again, we can choose from a list of qualified employees to post this shift out to. Once posted, these employees will receive a notification and can pick up the shift on a first-come, first-served basis. Any requests for scheduling changes will be routed through an approval process before going into effect. Essentially, this gives employees more control over their work-life balance, which makes for happier, more productive employees.